Gardening can be very strenuous on your body, but it can be more strenuous if you're not doing it correctly. So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to garden without hurting or injuring your back so that you can continue gardening throughout the entire summer, but also into your later years. And make sure you stick to the end to hear some of my best stretches for avoiding back injuries while you garden throughout the day. Let's begin. Hello, my name is Dr. Stephen Hulme. I'm a chiropractor based in Reading, and in this video I'm going to go through and teach you how you can garden without hurting your back. Gardening season is upon us, and we are approaching that time where we're going to want to get out in the garden, going to want to start getting the garden ready for the summer. But this is the precise time that if you're not doing it correctly, you can actually hurt yourself, meaning that you're not going to be able to continue gardening throughout the summer. So you need to make sure that you're doing these things that I'm about to go through to ensure that you can continue gardening throughout the entire summer, but also that you keep your spine healthy. So the first thing we need to think about is the position of our spine with every activity that we do. And the main thing here to focus on is keeping our spine in neutral. And we want to focus more on using our hips and our knees. These are the joints that have a large amount of range of motion. And these are the joints, therefore, that have been designed to be used primarily through most of the movements that we do. Particularly with gardening, because it can be fairly strenuous on the body, you need to be using the joints that are designed to do that type of work. So you need to make sure that you're getting the movement from these joints, the hips and the knees, and less so from the spine. And when you're doing these movements, you therefore need to keep the spine in neutral. Therefore, we need to be able to do a squat. A squat is a very basic movement, but so many of us don't know how to do it correctly. So my first recommendation is to check out my video here on how to squat correctly. Squatting is involved with so many of the tasks in the garden, whether it's digging or raking or brushing or weeding. We need to be able to use our spine correctly. But one of the most common times that we'll need this squatting motion within the garden, and probably the most important times as well, is when we're lifting things, when we're moving things from one end to another, whether that's paving stones or dirt or flower pots, whatever it is. We need to make sure that we're lifting from our hips and our knees and not from our back, particularly when we're lifting something heavy. So the way we want to do this is essentially we'll just want to get into a squatting motion. So once you've got that squatting motion mastered, then you can just literally apply this to when you lift something off the ground. So you're going to squat down using your knees and your hips, and you can see here how I'm using these joints and my spine is very much straight. Once you're in that position, then you just bring your hands down, pick up the object, and then squeezing your core, making sure you don't bend your spine, you then lift the thing back up. When you go to put down the object, you then do the exact same thing in reverse. You have to be very conscious of this and reverse the squat downwards, let go, and then come up into a squat again. And then throughout the whole thing, you've kept your spine nice and straight. Now, another time we're going to use this is when we're weeding. So when we're weeding, what I'll suggest here is to be in one of two positions. The first position you can be is on your hands and knees, and this will allow you to then create that nice neutral spine, and then you can do your work from there. I would highly suggest putting something underneath your knees so that you don't hurt your knees, so you've got some soft padding. An alternative, particularly if you do have knee issues or maybe this is not a very comfortable position, is to sit on something, keeping your spine in neutral and bending from your hips, leaning forwards to then work on whatever you're doing, such as taking out the weeds. If you then want to turn and do a patch, say off to your right or off to your left, don't turn from this position. Don't twist your spine and bend forward. This is the perfect position if you're looking to hurt your back. Flexion and twisting is one of the most common mechanisms to get a disc injury. So don't do this. Instead, pick your whole body up and turn your entire body and then work on that section. You're going to find this much more comfortable and your spine will certainly thank you for this. The next thing I'll suggest is don't work on one task for a long period of time. For example, if you need to dig a vegetable patch, then don't do that for hours and hours, because by the end your body is going to be hurting. And particularly with digging, it's a very one-sided activity. So you're going to be stressing certain areas of your spine and your joints and your body, and this is not going to be ideal. What I suggest to do is to have a few tasks at the same time if possible, so that you can switch between the different tasks. Particularly if you find a particular task that makes your spine or your back hurt more than the rest, then this is one that you particularly want to do in smaller doses. So you can do say 10-15 minutes of digging, then go on to something that stretches your spine a little bit less, or just in a different way, and go in between those two. This is the same thing, for example, when we were talking about weeding, you want to be in different positions. So the hands on knees, and then the position we talked about where you're sitting, I would suggest doing both and alternating, because it's the different positions that the spine likes. It likes to be moving and it likes to be in different positions. It's when you're in one position for a long period of time doing something very repetitively, that's when you're much more likely to get an injury. Now, you want to treat gardening like a workout. We're just entering the season where people are going to start getting out in the gardens and start preparing for the summer, and they haven't been doing too much for the entire winter. So have the same principle that we applied, that when you go to the gym, on the first day, you're not going to go all out, and you're probably not going to go every single day in that first week, because you're going to need more rest time. The same thing is with gardening. It's very physical, and so you need to allow enough time for your body to be able to recover after each session. So start slow, start in small doses, and work your way up to doing longer and larger amounts. After a few weeks, you'll notice yourself getting stronger and being able to withstand longer periods of gardening, until at the end you'll probably be quite fit. So it is a very good exercise. It's very good to be out in the garden, but do treat it like you would at the gym. By the way, if you are new here and you're liking this content, then please do consider subscribing. I post videos twice a week here, and I'm passionate about helping people to optimize their health and staying pain-free, which is why I wanted to do this video, because I know a lot of my patients are starting to get out into their gardens, and we want to ensure that you're not going to be hurting the spine, which is going to mean you're less likely to need a chiropractor. Also hit that notification bell, because then you'll know when these videos are coming out. My next piece of advice is don't be a hero. If you need to lift something very heavy, something that's going to require a lot more physical activity, then make sure you get some help. Don't try and do everything by yourself, because you may just regret it. So often I hear people's back pain starting when they try to lift something too heavy that was perhaps meant for 2 or 3 people to lift, and they tried to do it by themselves, and they suffered for years since then. So don't get yourself into that situation. Judge whether realistically you're going to be able to do this by yourself or not, and get yourself some help. The next thing I'll suggest is try not to garden for the first hour of the morning, particularly if you are vulnerable to back injuries, because the first hour of the day is when your discs are the most hydrated. When you're sleeping, you don't have as much pressure through your spine, so your discs fill up with water. This puts more stress in the spine, which makes your spine more vulnerable to injury. So that first hour is the most important, because after that hour, 90% of that pressure has been reduced. So I would avoid gardening for that first hour, and make sure that you're on your feet as much as possible, particularly if you are vulnerable to back injuries. Then lastly, I want to just show you a stretch that you can do, because a lot of gardening you're bending over and you're in this flexed position. So what you want to do throughout the day when you are gardening is to do a stretch that's going to reverse that, and that's going to be a hallelujah stretch. Very simple. You can do this in the sitting position on a chair. You're going to raise your arms out above you, above your head, and then you're just going to lean back with your arms going backwards, and that's going to stretch out the front. Another thing you can do is a Bruggers Relief, and you can do this in any position, sitting or standing, and you simply just put your elbows in by your side, and then you turn your wrist outwards so that you stretch the front of your chest, and then you just extend your spine, bring your chest up and out, bring your head back, just so you're stretching the front of your chest, and you're giving your spine some extension, because your spine is going through a lot of flexion when you are working. So you just want to reverse that and just get a bit of mobility in there. So these are my top tips. Please do follow them as best as you can, because you will avoid injury by doing so. And have a great gardening season. I hope you enjoy your time out in the garden, and hopefully the weather's going to start picking up a little bit, because summer in the UK at least isn't quite here, but very much looking forward to that. I've actually myself, for the first time, have my own garden, so I'm very excited to get out there and start making it look nice. So I hope you're having a good day, and I will see you on the next video. Take care, and bye-bye.